All right, let's dive into something pretty counterintuitive. Today we're going to explore a really powerful idea from the philosopher known as the Nazarene. It's a way of looking at the world that says our greatest strength isn't found in being wise or cautious, but in a kind of divine foolishness. So, let's get into it.
Whoa. Okay, we're starting with maybe the most provocative and most misunderstood statement in all of philosophy. But here's the thing. This isn't about the literal death of a deity. Not at all. Think of it as a diagnosis. It's a metaphor for a massive cultural crisis that has completely shaken the foundations of the modern world.
So to really get the solution that this philosophy offers, we first have to get our heads around the problem. We need to start by diagnosing the collapse of this shared source of meaning that once held everything together.
So what does the death of God really mean? Well, for centuries, God was like the ultimate North Star for Western civilization. It was this single, universal anchor that guaranteed what was true, what was moral. It gave order to reality itself. But then, with the rise of science and rationalism, it's like that anchor was just pulled up. The North Star vanished from the sky.
And you can imagine what happens when your guiding star just disappears, right? The consequences are huge. Without that central reference point, we start to lose our moral direction. That's when this really dangerous idea called nihilism starts to creep in, this feeling that maybe life is totally meaningless. We're left with this deep crisis of purpose, whereas the Nazarene warned, even our laws start to feel like they're built on nothing at all.
And this quote, wow, it just captures that feeling perfectly. It's this deep, existential chill, this sense of being unchained from everything you know and left to just drift. Imagine being an astronaut whose tether to the spaceship snaps. You're just floating in an infinite darkness. There's no up, there's no down, there's just a terrifying freedom with no direction.
Okay, so this whole societal crisis isn't just some abstract idea for us to debate. The Nazarene brings this crashing down to a deeply, deeply personal level. He presents us with a thought experiment, one that forces each of us to confront this crisis head-on. Imagine this. A demon comes to you in your loneliest hour and whispers this question. This life you are now living and have lived, you will have to live it once more and innumerably times more. Every joy, every pain, every boring Wednesday afternoon, every single mistake, you have to relive it all exactly as it was forever. So, how would you react? Would that be a divine gift or the ultimate curse?
Now, for what the Nazarene calls the last man, his symbol for a person who lives a life of comfortable, risk-averse mediocrity, this idea is absolute horror. He'd call it an eternal damnation. The thought of repeating his small, unexamined life forever is a nightmare, and that's the whole point. The terror of this question forces you to confront yourself and ask, is the life I'm living right now one I would actually choose to repeat?
So how do we get from that place of horror to a place of joyful acceptance? How do we build a life we'd want to repeat? Well, this philosophy lays out a psychological journey for us, a path that involves 3 transformations of the human spirit.
First, he says, our spirit is like a camel. It kneels down and accepts the heavy burdens of tradition, of society's rules, of a life you didn't fully choose for yourself. But you can't stay a camel forever. You have to become the lion. The lion is the spirit that stands up and roars a defiant, holy no to those old burdens and comfortable lies. But just destroying things isn't enough. The final and most difficult transformation is to become the child. The child offers a holy yes, not to the old ways, but to the pure joy of creation, ready to build new values and new meaning, right here, right now.
And I love this image because it perfectly illustrates the goal. It's not about just passively accepting your fate and enduring the hourglass. No way! The spirit of the child looks at that very same hourglass that terrified the last man and sees a toy. It wants to turn it over, play with the sand, build something new. It's about becoming an active, joyful creator of your own life.
All right, so let's bring this all together. This whole journey, from the burdened camel to the defiant lion to the creative child, it leads us to a truly radical, new kind of courage. It's a whole new definition of what it means to be virtuous.
This brings us to the ultimate goal, amor fati. It's Latin for a love of one's fate. And let's be really clear here, this is not passive resignation. This isn't just shrugging and saying, it is what it is. It's an active, passionate, fiery embrace of your life, exactly as it is, with all the pain, all the joy, all the messiness. It's the power to look at your own existence and say, yes, I choose this, all of it. It's necessary, it's beautiful.
So why is this so hard to achieve?
Well, because the Nazarene argues that our world often works directly against this ideal. He says we live under a tyranny of prudence. We've made a virtue out of safety and a religion out of calculation. We live in a society that prefers a balanced ledger over a spontaneous, joyful song.
And in this world that worships being prudent and careful, anything that can't be calculated or predicted is seen as a threat. Spontaneity is a problem to be managed. Passion is just foolishness. Taking a huge risk for something you love with no guaranteed payoff, that's seen as irrational. And this cautious spirit completely suffocates the creative joy we need to build a life worth repeating.
And this brings us right to the heart of it all. In a world that prizes safety and calculation above everything else, the greatest act of dignity, the greatest act of courage, is to be a fool. A fool for your art, a fool for your passion, a fool for the future you want to create. This divine folly is the truest mark of a spirit that has finally become the child, the creator.
So we'll end by turning that question back to you. In this one life you have, the one you might have to live for all eternity, what is the beautiful, untrodden path you're willing to be a fool for? What is the one thing so important to you that it's worth saying a holy yes to again and again and again?